Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world again, and welcome to this session with Gualtiero Bazzana from ALTEN, also former president of the ISTQB and president of the Italian Testing Board. Gualtiero is going to cover the ISTQB scheme today and some of the benefits and ROI. If you've got any questions, please pop them into the comments box, and I know that Gualtiero will be absolutely thrilled to answer them at the end of the presentation. GB, I'm going to hand over to you now rather than taking any more of the precious time and ask you to go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you. Thanks everybody which is connected. As Debbie was introducing, I will try to make a synthesis of what I consider being the value of ISTQB certification, seen from a double perspective, the perspective of having been ISTQB President for many years, so having tried to define and put in place the product portfolio and all the kind of programs that Iestiqb has set up, and on the other hand, being let's say a manager within a big group at international level like ALTEN is, and seen from the user experience from a company point of view what the value of ISTQB certification can be. The presentation will be split in three main parts. First one, an introduction to ISTQB. I will be as much as possible short on this part because I assume that most of you are knowledgeable with the content of the scheme, but just to make sure that we are all on the same page, taking into account also the recent evolutions of the ISTQB. Second, the value certification, so the real, let's say, core content of this presentation, and some words on the way ahead of ISTQB for the future. Well, ISTQB, as you know, stands for International Software Testing Qualification Board. It's a not-for-profit association which was founded in 2002, and that has is composed of volunteer international testing experts around the world, and is responsible for the ISTQB certified tester scheme worldwide. And as you know, the ISTQB is now a world's leading organization for certification of professionals in software testing, with our mission, which is promoting the software testing profession. So what does it mean from a practical point of view? Is that the ISTQB has the mission and the goal to contribute to the continuous improvement and advance of a software testing profession by means of defining and maintaining a body of knowledge, that is syllabi, glossary, which allows testers to be certified based on best practices, and then connecting this at international level for the overall software testing community and fostering research. From a practical point of view, the huge work which has been done in the last almost 20 years now of existence of ISTQB has come to a definition of an overall scheme of this body of knowledge, this syllabi, which are split into three levels: foundation, advanced, and expert on one side, and on the other side, like a matrix, into three streams: the core stream, which includes the testing core knowledge, the agile stream, and the specialist, which is an area of knowledge which is aimed for those who want to do deep dive in specific tested topic. As you know, one of the reasons for the success of ISTQB, well, I think that the main reason is the quality of the syllabi, but this has to be combined with the fact that the syllabi are publicly available for download. So anyone can go on the ISTQB website, download the syllabi without even having to introduce their own name, surname, and email. It's completely free. This concept of open source has always been at the base of our community. The second is that the syllabi are combined with an ISTQB glossary, which I think has defined over the years a sort of references in the software testing arena. And also that thanks to the member boards, which are distributed all over the world, syllabi and glossary are translated into many languages, and that so this has helped spread the knowledge throughout the world by means of the local boards and their local websites. So you see here a picture which represents the current ISTQB product portfolio, which has evolved a lot over the years. You see at the center, the vertical part, the core stream made of what were the first syllabi of ISTQB, the certified tester, which is a precondition of everything else, the test analyst, the technical test analyst, the test manager. On the left-hand side, the agile tester part, in which we started from a foundation level, and now we have evolved into also 2 syllabi at the advanced level, one which has already been released, and the other which is a work in progress. And on the right-hand side, a new stream which has evolved a lot over the last 3 years, in which we have a bunch of specialist syllabus, in which you can find some phases or quality characteristic oriented testing, like acceptance testing, performance testing, mobile application testing, or testing or usability testing, or some activities which are related to specific sectors, like gambling testing, automotive software testing, etc., etc. These modules are clearly less. There are less certification on this than on the certified tester. This is obvious, but we see a progressive ramp up, especially on the test automation engineer, which covers a subject in which we have a huge demand of competencies in the market. Just to remind you what is the structure of the ISTQB ecosystem, this is also important to understand the different analysis of the benefits, because we have to understand the benefits from different point of views. At the center of the scheme, there is the certified tester, which can get, let's say, his exam through an exam provider, which is, let's say, accredited by the member board, and can receive, if he wants, because the access to ISTQB exam is completely free. There is no precondition about having taken a training, but if this is the wish of the person, this is clearly possible through the accredited training provider. So at the very top, we have a central ISTQB, which is responsible for the creation of new syllabi, the definition of worldwide rules, and the working group activities. We have the local member boards, which are responsible for translating and releasing the syllabi locally, to accredit the training providers, to create and release exam questions, and to manage the exam administration and issue the certificate. Several times the member boards do this, let's say, autonomously, other times through exam providers, and more we have exam providers which are covering the whole world and from which you can take your exams online, so very, very easily. And then we already commented the accredited training providers, which are training centers, which are accredited by the member boards and which have the duty of create the course material and to deliver the training courses. You can see it in another way from this half circle, and it is important to understand that we will try to understand the value of the ISTQB certification for 3 categories, for 3 groups: the training provider and exam bodies, the certified professional, and the companies that, let's say, employ the certified professionals which have taken the ISTQB certification. So the analysis of the certification will be not only related to the single person which takes the certification, but to a broader sense, looking at the overall value chain in which the certification fits. Just to conclude this introductory part and to share what is the current footprint of ISTQB worldwide, very proud to share with all the other colleagues which work in ISTQB that as of the end of 2020, ISTQB has reached a sort of, let's say, epic milestone, which that is to say, achieving over 1 million exams done over the world and issuing more than 700,000 certificates worldwide. As I already told you, since the start of a pandemic, the exams can be done through remote proctoring throughout the world, and all this makes ISTQB by far the largest testing qualification certification scheme worldwide. In terms of numbers, of figures, I talked about training providers. today in the world, we have more than 400 accredited training providers worldwide, and all of them can be searched in the Iestqb website. And we have also another categories of companies which have a strong relationship with Iestqb, which are the so-called Iestqb Partners. What do we have? What does a company need to do to become a partner? Simply, the partnership is based on the number of certified professionals in Iestqb, which are affiliated, which are hired to a company. So a company which has a significant number of Iestqb certified professionals can ask to be recognized as an Iestqb partner at different levels. And as of today, more than 200 companies in the world have subscribed to this program, which gives a number of advantages to them. I hope that this introduction was quick enough to be sure that we are all on the same page and we have the same understanding of the ISTQB current situation and the stakeholders that we will treat in the following. Let's now go to the value of certification. The value of certification can be done through different ways. It can be done through quantitative analysis of data, which is by far the most difficult to do, or by having surveys, which tend to ask to people what they feel they got as a result. And surveys can be done by ISTQB itself or by some external organization, which has nothing to do with ISTQB, and so which is more neutral. We will try to give you some hints on the value certification of a free perspective. First of all, some quantitative data which have been analyzed by reputable third party which are not part of ISTQB, the result of some surveys which have been done by ISTQB, and some surveys which have been done outside the ISTQB. So let's start from the first aspect. And one thing which is often asked is really ISTQB certification, or in general, software testing certification, providing a return on investment in terms of increased productivity of software projects and increase the quality of the delivered products. This is quite complicated things, because when you have different performances from projects, there can be a lot of different reasons due to that contribute to the fact that a project is more or less quality, has more or less quality, and is more or less productive. But we have, let's say, a person, an independent person like Capers-Jones, which is very well known in the software engineering community worldwide, which has developed a scoring method which doesn't simply cover the testing, but covers a lot of criteria in which he applies this kind of criteria to try to identify which practice contributes more or less to productivity of software projects through a quantitative analysis which is made on over 20,000 projects spanning 50 industries and 24 countries. The analysis, the way that it does the analysis is described in a book that he has published, and here you can find the references, and the data to which I'm referring are taken from his last available, to me at least, analysis which he has issued, which is about 2014. So here I'm not, let's say, covering all the possible different criteria which can impact the productivity of software projects, but only the ones which are related to testing. In his analysis, Capers-Jones has taken 6 different aspects of practices, of testing practices, which can have a positive or negative impact on the overall productivity in a global way. He has taken the analysis of what is the impact if we have a test team which is experienced, what is the impact if the testing team is certified, What is the impact if the testing is done not by a separated team, by developers only? What if the test cases are informal, so there is no test planning, test design? What happens if the team is totally unexperienced? And what it happens globally if we decide to truncate the testing activity to meet schedule, and so we release an application in operation, even if we know that the testing activities are not being completed. You see the impact. The first two practices contribute to a global improvement. The other clearly contribute to a worsening, which can be severe in some cases. We are happy to see that the testing by certified personnel contributes to a 7% improvement, which is not changing the picture drastically, is not 50% improvement, but is still an improvement which is significant, especially if you consider it over the scale of large projects. Second, let's see what are the results of the ISTQB effectiveness survey. ISTQB has decided from the very beginning, and this is the reason why it is a not-for-profit organization, not to simply work on syllabi and exams, but also to contribute to the overall evolution of the knowledge about the testing through surveys. We have historically two kinds of surveys. The first one is a survey on software testing practices, and the second one is the so-called ISTQB effectiveness surveys, which is aimed to get the feedback from people which have gone through or are interested in the ISTQB certification. The other interesting thing is that as of date, we have 3 surveys, so we can observe not only the result, but also the trend over time of the same results. These reports, as usual, are available for free download from the ISTQB website. And here we enter into the ISTQB effectiveness survey. And I'm directly opening the document. I hope we can see it. Voila. So I will go really through the document. Just to, let's say, that you can then download from the ISTQB website, focusing on some aspects which I consider key. Well, just to give you some statistics, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. It is a survey which is really worldwide, so you can see that we have respondents from everywhere in the world, and that also in terms of experience in software testing is quite well distributed, having people responding which are rookies, less than 1 year, but a significant part is mainly between the 1, 5, 6, 10, and 11, 15 years of experience. And you can see in the different bars how this, let's say, percentage have changed over time. So you see the various surveys which have been done over time. Also, in terms of company size, the survey is quite well represented because we have people responding which are pertaining to small companies. About 10% are really small companies, less than 10 people. Another 10% is in the range of 10 to 15. The large majority is, let's say, medium and large size companies. But overall, it's very well represented. As well, it is well represented the number of testing professionals within the organization. So as you can see, we have a quite even distribution of companies with small testing teams, minus than 5, companies with a reasonable number of testers, and companies with more than 100 testing professionals dedicated to testing activities. And last but not least, also a very good representation of industries. So here we are not focusing only to providers of testing services. It is completely open. So we have the first line, about 32% of respondents which are coming from typically consulting companies, but a lot coming, for example, from finance, banking, telecommunication, aerospace and defense, healthcare and medical, education, and so on and so forth. So let's see, first of all, from this survey, what was the motivation to have the employees achieve the ISTQB foundation level certification. And as you can see, in almost all the cases, let's say the great majority of respondents said that the main purpose is to develop the development of the employee career path. We are very proud of that because this is the initial intention of the ISTQB, and we are happy to see that this is the main driver and not, as it happens sometimes in other kind of certification, the customer demand. We also see that the companies which embrace the ISTQB certification are willing to certify a significant part of their staff. So you can see that the respondents say we would like to have more than 50% of the companies reply saying that we would like to have almost the majority, almost the complete staff certified at the foundation level, that, as I remember to you, is the certification, is the start of the overall scheme. More important, since we are looking at as a survey, is to understand not what was the purpose, but what is the achievement, what is the result. So the question here is, to what extent do you think that the ISTQB foundation certification will improve your career path, well, and your income as well? So from a career path point of view, you see that 45% of the respondents said, yes, this has contributed greatly to my career path, and some contribution to 42%. So the sum of the two, which is globally, let's say, an important impact, is for more than 80% of the respondents, which declare that through this certification, they have highly improved their testing skills, or they have somewhat improved their testing skills. Again, more than 80% of the people felt that they had this positive contribution. If you want, then we put a question, which is like the one that you see in the surveys for some off-the-shelf products, is, would you recommend the ISTQB foundation level certification to your colleagues? And as you can see, the response is yes for 92% of the cases, with a percentage which has remained in the order of 90% throughout the 3 surveys which are being conducted. Another important aspect is the question is, do you think that the ISTQB accredited training course have helped you in preparing to the certification? Your reply is mitigated in the sense that half of the people say, yes, we took a certification training before that, and half of that say, no, we did self-studying. But for those that did a formal training, they see that the first 2 bars, it is that they say that the contribution of the training to the success of their certification were significant or very significant globally in about 75%, if you sum the 2 of the cases. So we see that only about half of the people which take the ISTQB certification go through a formal training, but those that do are quite happy about the help that they got from having this certification. Now we get into the advanced one, the advanced level. And the other question is, how important do you think it is to obtain an advanced level certification? And again, we see that if we take the 2 first response, which is very significant or significant, this sums up to over 70% of the people, which is reflected on the fact that around 70% of the people, which after achieving the foundation level certification, plan to achieve also the at least one advanced level, either within 2 years or in any case later in the future. I skip some aspects because we don't have the time to go through all the content, so I try to focus on the most important messages. One of the big, let's say, subjects in which ISTQB entered some years ago was also the Agile Transformation. We decided to have a, well, first of all, to adapt in any case the foundation level to the new Agile practices through the 2018 CTFL edition, which is very much intrinsically adopting a lot of Agile practices, whereas the previous CTFL was very much waterfall oriented, and additionally through a specific syllabus which is dedicated to testing within Agile practices. And again, people which have undertaken the Agile testing certification consider very significant the importance and the contribution they had from this certification. I conclude this presentation by another aspect of the survey which I consider very important. Let's say that ISTQB conducts this survey for two reasons. The first one is to assess the feedback of his community, its users, and the second one to get hints about the subjects which are considered more important from you for the future topics that ISTQB should develop, should work upon. This is quite interesting. This is something that changes a lot over the survey, which is totally normal, because subjects which were cutting edge 6 years ago are today bread and butter, or even with topics which were raised 6 years ago that in the meanwhile ISTQB has successfully covered. So the window of cutting edge practices moves continuously, and so in this case we don't make any comparison with the previous year because it doesn't make any sense. So let's now focus on what are the subjects which are considered today important that ISTQB focuses upon in order to provide a new blood for the testing subjects. First is continuous testing. Second, with 34% of respondents considering it is very important, cloud testing. Then the testing on BI, big data scenarios and arena. So as you can see, the first 3 places are more related to the markets which today are more growing and more emerging. And when we find at third and fourth place practices which are quite, let's say, classic, if you want, evergreen, but which remain topics which are felt very important, like test data management or test metrics and test effort estimation. And then we go on with, it's interesting to see because in any case, we have 2 pages of topics that people consider interesting, from web-based application testing to exploratory testing, testing in finance domain, testing system integration testing, configuration management testing, testing in telecommunication, embedded system testing, and so on and so forth. So from this survey, we even understand how big the testing world is and how many different facets we can have starting from the initial core. And let me just conclude with, let's say, the final part of the report, which shows the ISTQB colleagues which are more contributed to this survey and which are worth, let's say, expressing a thanks to them on this aspect. Now, coming back on the, let's say, presentation, one thing that you could consider is that the data collected by ISTQB on ISTQB could be somewhat biased, that maybe the questions have been put in a way which, let's say, drives the replies of the people, or that the data have been a little bit educated. Okay, this can be a doubt that rise to your eyes, to your minds. So this is why I'm also presenting to you a survey which was done by the Eurostar conference some years ago. Eurostar is one of the most reputable conferences, and it is not organized by ISTQB, it's really independent. And so in this survey which was done, it was asked what was the value of software testing certifications globally. It was not focused on ISTQB 1. So are testing certification valuable, something which people are proud of, help getting a job or a promotion, were globally worthwhile undertaking, or on the contrary, let's say a negative question, just to be sure that people are not just ticking the box without checking the question, if on the contrary it has no bearing on how we test. So as you can see, in the data are quite similar than what I presented to you, with a score in the range of 66 to 74% in terms of value, and something that provides recognition, and also a good percentage, half of the people responded that this even contributed to improve, to get a job or to get a promotion. So to sum up, what can we say which are the benefits for professionals? Clearly, the ISTQB certification as of to date represents an international recognition of competence and skill. I remember that all the people which are ISTQB certified can use the certified tester logo with different logos for the different certification, and that this applies to the whole career path. A lot of years ago, we just had the foundation level certification, which was, let's say, just for the basic entry into the testing world. Now, with all the specialist modules, the agile modules, the advanced modules, one can really show and prove his knowledge in the ISTQB world, which, as we have seen, provides also quite a good appeal in the labor market, especially where I think that there are some countries in which today having an ISTQB certification is a sort of passport to enter into the labor market. Clearly, the benefits for companies is that ISTQB certification can provide a competitive advantage for the fact that using certified people, as we have seen from the Capers-Jones survey, supports a higher level of reliability of the application being developed and a more cost-effective testing practices which derive from the competencies. This applies to final users, banks, telco, aerospace and defense companies, and also to service companies, consulting companies. As I told you, ISTQB has defined a partner program which is open to any kind of companies. So not only to consulting companies, but also to end user companies that engage in their tester in the ISTQB scheme. So in order to adhere to the ISTQB partner program, as I told you, this is not a process certification and not something that ISTQB is checking how your testing processes are being conducted or defined, whether your projects are successful or not. I want to make clear that is a recognition that says this company has a significant number of ISTQB certified testers. And there are several levels in this certification, from silver to gold to platinum to global, which is the highest one, depending on the number of certified testers and also the number of locations in different countries where this has been achieved. This provides a number of, let's say, marketing, if you want, advantages, but also, this is quite important, access to the early version of a new syllabi, which means that the partners, the members of a partner program, are entitled to receive the syllabi of ISTQB when they are in beta version, so before being officially released to market, which provides them the possibility to comment, to contribute, and also to have an anticipated view of what the final ISTQB syllabi will look like. And also, typically, the members of a partner program can benefit of discounts in conferences and local benefits provided to member boards and by member boards and exam providers. For instance, I am the chairman of the Italian board, and in Italy we provide discounts on the taking exams to companies which are part of a partner program. Finally, the further stakeholders of the ISTQB scheme, the accredited training providers, we think that for these companies, so for training institutes and companies, the ISTQB scheme provides great advantages to them in terms of having a label which testifies the fact that the training material has been done, because the training material of ISTQB training provider is checked by ISTQB. So we want to make sure that the training material sticks to the contents of ISTQB. But they don't just use the ISTQB logo in a bit of an unfair way. All the trainers must be certified ISTQB, at least at the level that they teach. And also in this case, the training provider can have access to the glossary and syllabi in advance, also because they have to update their material correspondingly. If you are looking for an accredited training provider, you can go to the Istgb website and you can look for level of certification and country, and you find the list of training providers which have been accredited in accordance to your search criteria. As I was telling you, I've been the honor and the pride to be ISTQB President for 2 mandates. Now I continue being part of the ISTQB ecosystem, but no longer as a chairman worldwide, rather focusing on the Italian activities. But at the same time, I am a manager in a large group, ALTEN. ALTEN is a group which is headquartered in France, but with covering over 30 countries worldwide. We have a workforce of close to 40,000 employees, which provides technology-related consulting services in all industries. And as part of that, as you can see, I've been quite coherent, if you want. And so ALTEN, as a proof of the fact that we consider that ISTQB is providing values to companies, is today an accredited training provider, which is not really our mission. ALTEN is a large multinational listed at the stock exchange, and so we are not, the training is not our core business. But we think that having an academy, both in which Istgb has a very important place, is a very important aspect, both for our internal employees and for our customers. Second, thanks to the fact that we have certified hundreds of people throughout the world, our employees, we have achieved the ISTQB Global Partner, which means that we are at least, we are platinum level, which is the highest at a single country, in at least 3 countries. And we take advantage of the ISTQB process and certification to be sure that the level of knowledge of our employees is up to the expectations of our customers. Let's now come to the conclusive remark, the way ahead. I just have one slide, and I'm trying to focus on the way ahead in terms of ISTQB. As I was telling you, ISTQB keeps on producing new syllabi, which are associated then to new exams. As you saw from the roadmap, we are already work in progress, quite advanced in an additional, let's say, large-scale application of the Agile method in the testing domain. And activities have also started for developing a syllabus based on AI testing. At the same time, ISTQB is very much committed in the maintenance and evolution of our syllabi, which is a huge work, because you have seen that the product portfolio today is very big. So keeping the material updated is quite a big effort. As of today, there are 2 main subjects on which the effort is particularly strong. One is the glossary, because every time we have a new syllabus, we have to make sure that the glossary evolves in a coherent way. And second, the advanced level, the core advanced level, is today undergoing a major evolution, taking into account the evolution of testing practice and all the feedbacks that we got from training providers, from partners, and from professionals in those years. So new test analyst has already been released, new technical test analyst as well, and within short time we will have a new version of a test manager as well. And in general, we have tried also in this refactoring, in this evolution of the syllabi, to manage training time, which is and to split a little bit the topics which were becoming a little bit overlapping with some existing specialist module, so that the training duration is a little bit reduced, because this was one also the request of our customers, to keep the modules a bit more compact and to avoid overlaps with the other specialist modules. Then we have continuous initiatives. ISTQB today is very well represented worldwide by 70 boards, I think, but each year we have new boards which are joining ISTQB, new surveys like the one which I introduced to you. And also I would like to take the opportunity to remind that a few years ago, ISTQB has launched a global successful candidate registry, and that people which are now undertaking exams, every time they undertake an exam, they can specify if they want to be listed or not. For people which took the exam before this global successful candidate register was taken, you always have a possibility to ask to the exam provider or member board with whom you took the exam to add you, after you provide your consent, to this global successful candidate registry, which is available on the web and clearly so worldwide. And I really would like to conclude. I will not provide to you, saying that we have, as I already mentioned, we have two kinds of surveys. First one about satisfaction, second one about what are the state of the art about software testing practices worldwide. We had two editions. The last one is a bit dated. It is from 2016, and I know that a new one will be produced quite soon, so stay tuned in order to have visibility on that. So I tried to be compact. We still have a little bit of time for some questions which may have been put in the meanwhile, and to which I would be happy to reply to.
Thank you so much, GB. A really good overview. And thank you for going through the effectiveness survey and sharing some of the outputs of that. We do have some questions, and thank you to all those people who are being a little bit shy and who sent me a personal message. And please do ask in the comments section on the various social media streams also. We would welcome that. Lisa Marie is asking, what ISTQB book would you recommend as a solid base to pass the foundation certification? GB, I think the book recommendations are usually at the back of the syllabus.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, let me say that the contents of the syllabi are based also on literature, and this literature is mentioned within the syllabi. Then there are several experts which have written books. Typically are people working in ISTQB, which are based on the ISTQB content and their experience to help you pass the exam. Because it has to be understood that the ISTQB exam, the ISTQB syllabi are quite compact. So they provide you the topics and the contents, but not really, they don't get into super detail. So the books which are existing on the market get much more into details, practical cases, etc. So a lot of people find it useful to go through them. I don't have one specific book to recommend. It would be unfair with respect to the different colleagues in ISTQB which have written them. The only thing which I can tell you, especially for the foundation level, is take care to study on a book which is aligned with the 2018, so the last version of ISTQB Foundation syllabus, because it has changed a lot with respect to the previous version. So please don't study in a book which is making reference to previous all the previous syllabus.
Very good advice there, GB. And just to mention that the current syllabus version is 3.1. GB, people who are studying, I think we've got the syllabus, we've also got the glossary available for people to use as both part of their study, but also as a general research tool.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a question here from Raoul. That's a lovely profile photo there. Is the new syllabus for Test Manager coming out this year by any chance? That's letting the cat out the bag.
Okay, so I can confirm that work is very much advanced on the new Advanced Test Manager. Sorry for the double advance. But I know that the work is very much advanced and in progress. About the fact whether it will be issued this year or not, I must be honest with you. After I'm no longer ISTQB President, I don't have a roadmap in my hands in terms of delivery dates. So you can refer to the current ISTQB President, Olivier Denou, for having more visibility on whether it will be end of this year or beginning of 2022. But it's coming quite soon.
So, one of the challenges when people are waiting for new syllabus, Gualtiero, is do I study now, do I attend training, or do I wait for the new to come out? What would your advice be?
Well, first of all, it has to be understood that the ISTQB certifications are valid lifetime, okay? And that the fact that a new syllabus arrives does not infringe the value of an existing ISTQB certification. Second, I also have to say that the evolution of a syllabi that we are making is very much oriented to two things. The first one is to update the content, to include some additional practices. But to be honest, in terms of, for example, test management, yes, there are new things, but we are, I would say, quite solid on bases which have been out for many years. We are doing a strong effort in terms of synchronization with the evolution of a glossary and synchronization with the other syllabi. So, in my eyes, if you are interested in getting an ISTQB Advanced Level Test Manager certification, you should do it right now based on the existing syllabus, and there will be changes, of course, with the new ones, but not disruptive up to the level that your current certification will be deemed as void and null. No, not at all. There will be very important overlapping between the existing one and the new one. We are talking about an evolution and not a revolution.
Absolutely. So anybody who does that have on their development plan at the moment, please don't feel that you're prohibited in any way from going ahead. Also on that, just to say that we had a session yesterday, I think, with Joe Elledge from Explayo, talking about the current test manager and the value in it, which is very, very good. And for test managers, we had a session this morning with Leanne Howard about test managers working in an agile environment, which was really enlightening and some good information there. Just some of the questions say, I've got some people who are very shy and they've been personal messaging me. I'll start with the more difficult one. Do you need a certification to be good at QA?
No, let's say I've been working in ISTQB and I'm still working, whereas on a, let's say, smaller scale in ISTQB. And I think I've never been, let's say, an advocate of saying who has not a certification is not a good tester. I think that there are a lot of people around the world which are very good tester, even without having a certification. There are a lot of craftsman people in any kind of activity which are very good without having a certification. Personally, I'm not racist at all from this point of view. I have people in my organization which are not ISTQB certified. We normally make them certified as well over the time. So I think that ISTQB certification for people which already have a good knowledge is a sort of a cherry on the cake. But of course, is not the only and ultimate thing to have. It's a complement. So, and then we have to also to be pragmatic in saying that in some countries, ISTQB certification today has come to a stage that if you define yourself as a professional software tester, is a sort of must-have. In other countries, it's not the same. So it depends also on the geography where you are working and where you project yourself for the future.
Absolutely. So ISTQB is about improving, perhaps, whether you're at an early part of your career or an established part of your career, and then actually validating your skills. So it's a little bit of, as we say in the UK, put your money where your mouth is a little bit,
Yeah.
and show that you are doing it. Accredited training. You mentioned accredited training providers. Now, there's a lot of people out there who offer training in this area. Why should someone choose an accredited training provider versus somebody who might be offering a flavour of ISTQB?
As I said, the big value of the following a training by an accredited training provider is twofold. The first one is that you are sure that the training material is aligned with ISTQB most recent and most updated and complete practices. Because, as I told you, the training material must be accredited.
Yes.
The second one is that in order to be accredited provider, the trainer must be certified. So you are sure that you got the knowledge from people which are knowledgeable and based on material which is accurate and up to date. So even though I say that I'm not racist at all, I would honestly say that if you are planning to take a training course, let's do it with an accredited training provider. I wouldn't see the reason why to do it with some gray training, let me put it this way.
There's certainly value there to the accredited training providers, and often they're practitioners as well, and testing practitioners. Yep. So, you know, they've got some very good anecdotes and stories that can really add value to the training. Tiago, thank you so much for your comment. He says, the problem when we test without the certification is that when we check the lessons for the certification, we usually do the inverse on our daily basics. Thank you for that.
I don't think we need to comment. It is a clear statement.
Last question. So the ISTQB portfolio, when some people look at it, they look at it as a career path, perhaps. Graham Barth in his presentation yesterday, talking about the new generation tester, was explaining that actually maybe it's a little bit more choose what's most appropriate as a skill set to you and your organization at the moment in the portfolio. Would you have any advice, GB, about how people should work their way through the certified tester scheme?
I don't have a specific advice in the sense that we have tried, and I say we, Debbie, because I think we were part of a team defining the structure of product portfolio, the two of us. So we try to do it as modular as possible. So the idea is that after getting the foundation certification, which we consider as the basics, and so it's mandatory, then everybody can select what he feels is more convenient for him. And this is why, apart the initial certification, the CTFL, there are essentially no precondition. So depending on what you're interested for, you can jump directly to the test automation, you can jump directly to the performance testing, you can jump to the test manager or to test analyst, or to getting more. So it's a tree which is very much open from the initial part. I don't think that, for example, we are not, let's say, providing a sort of super certification based on the fact that somebody got X number of certification. This is something we did it in the past. I think we still have it for the advanced level, but it's not something we are, let's say, pushing too much today, because the goal is not that somebody takes it all, but rather that everybody finds within the overall product portfolio what suits him best, depending on his career path and his activities, his, her activities.
Wonderful. GB, we've come to the end of the session. As always, it's such a pleasure to spend time with you and to hear you speak. And a huge thank you to everybody else who's attended this session. For those of you who are interested in ISTQB, a couple of sessions I'd recommend. At 2 o'clock CET, we have a foundation, ISTQB Foundation talk, which may be of interest to people. It will also be in French at 5 o'clock. And 5 o'clock CET, and also at 5 o'clock CET, we have a presentation on ISTQB and AI, which Gualtiero mentioned in his presentation. So hopefully you can join us then also. GB, thank you ever so much, and thank you to everybody.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Join us in Congress Hall. Absolutely. Look forward to it. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.